my goal was to find the A players. And some I recruited, some became A players when they were given an opportunity. So in other words, they valued the opportunity so much that they elevated. Everyone has the ability to elevate. Your job as a business owner is to create the environment of which they can elevate in, something worth striving toward.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. What's up, everybody? This is Mike Hickman, founder of paintergrowth.com, and I have a wonderful guest, good friend of mine, Tanner Mullen, founder of dripjobs.com, my go-to CRM for all of my clients and my top recommendation. But did you also know that he owns his own painting company? What's up, Tanner? Good to have you today, man.
And pleasure. Congrats on the launch of the Painter Growth Podcast. I anticipate that there will be many really great guests on this podcast, and I'm grateful to be considered. Happy to be here and excited to share some things that you should avoid when you grow your painting business.
Yeah, step one, don't start a painting business.
I won't say that. It's been great. It's been great.
Yeah. So you run Drip Jobs, growing super quickly, running a software company. Why don't we first jump in with balance? So you got a team on the software side, you have a team on the painting side.
Yeah.
How do you manage your time, and how do you run a painting business when you're also running a software company?
Man, it's very difficult. I can't sugarcoat that. I'd say that because the software company is a startup, there's so much, it's very volatile in terms of processes and systems. But the painting business has been tried and true for 7 years now. So I won't say that I have my painting business on autopilot, but what I do have is really great people out there taking care of our customers. And that's the essence of an organization, is that they have the standard that I would, or as close to what I would consider my standard as possible. And they're operating out there in our best interest. So for me, I have, the painting business, had it, if it wasn't operating the way it does, I don't really have any customer facing responsibilities right now in the painting business. So I wouldn't be able to do both, but I do, because I have great people out there helping me out.
It's funny you say the term organization, and I feel like you very purposefully chose that word organization. You didn't say company or painting company or anything like that, but organization, because a company, any company, is just that. It's an organization of people. It's organized people working together to accomplish a shared goal.
Sure.
And having good people, one thing that I often say is, like, if your company is made out of 5 people, and one of those people sucks, well, your company 20% sucks.
Right. Well, doing a good analogy, but I also use a similar analogy. Is like if you had a table with 4 posts on it, and one of those posts is wobbly, the other 3 can't get their footing. And it's interesting because early on in a business, that's when we should be most critical of who we let around us. And I think what happens is that there's so much uncertainty behind hiring, and there's so much uncertainty behind the processes of hiring, and there was so much luck to get there in the eyes of the person running the business, that's usually when we don't make tough decisions to get that squeaky wheel out, or to get that wobbly leg post of that table out, so the other 3 leg posts can rest, and not have to overcome the weight balance issue. So I love the analogy, man, because that's what it comes down to. And I think if we're going to hit this podcast hard, I'm sure we can't get past the topic of one of my favorite sayings in business, which is hire slow, fire fast.
100%. And when you're starting out your business, or you're early on in your business, and things start to get some momentum, you're booking jobs, you're booked out, you're producing, you're working 12 hours a day. Oftentimes we can't even follow our own advice. We want to slow down and hire slow, but someone shows up on our door, feels like a miracle, they're willing to work for us, and we just put them in.
Right.
Put me in, coach, with like no vetting. We don't call references. We don't do a full interview process because we don't have time. So how do you manage that, or how do you recommend managing that in early stages of business?
Well, it's like building blocks. you can really build on top of great people. So if your foundation is flawed, right? So in every organization, there's a there's a concrete foundation of the people that handle the most responsibility and the people that are most bought into the vision of the company. This is your manager. This is the person that you trust the most. This is somebody that looks out for you when you're not there. I call this my A player, my all-star, right? This is that guy early on that you can leave the job and go do an estimate and know that when you return, he wasn't messing around. He was talking in a polite way to the customer, or he was, a pleasant experience while you were gone. That's your A player, right? And what's interesting is if you don't have one of those, it's really hard to build your business, right? Maybe you have a couple B players or maybe a C player, and you have people that don't operate with your best interest in mind. Until you get an A player, you really don't understand the value of stacking the A player with other A players, because a true A player doesn't want to be around B players. They want to be around other A players that don't take from them. They want to win, right? It's like having teammates that don't pull their weight, going back to that table analogy. So when I started recognizing this, at least for my management team, my goal was to find the A players. And some I recruited, some became A players when they were given an opportunity. So in other words, they valued the opportunity so much that they elevated. Everyone has the ability to elevate. Your job as a business owner is to create the environment of which they can elevate in, something worth striving toward. So let's start simple. I started my business with, two guys. I was going to do the sub route, Mike. You know me. I'm a W-2 fella. And then, I don't know what do they call that in Canada. Is there a different analogy for it?
There's different terms, but yeah, it doesn't matter.
You guys probably still call it W-2 because it's such a common thing. Anyway.
We don't know. That's the form that you fill out.
Yeah.
Form. So we don't call it W-2. It would be a.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah.
No, it would be something else.
Well, in any case, just the idea of W-2 has just been used so much. It's like, oh, that's an employee here in America, at least. But anyway, so as a W-2 contractor, I was using contractors, and I'd always thought about transitioning to W-2 because what I recognized, at least for me, was the two people that I had weren't really bought into the culture, to the company. They wanted their money and they wanted to go home. And when I left the job, I had little bits of fear that they were going to sell work to my customer for themselves, and that was kind of scary to me. It's like, man, I don't really know if I can trust you. So I realized, I need to find people I could trust. Now, some contractors you can, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to take someone and give them an opportunity, because what I recognized is that there's not many opportunities for people that paint to work for a professional business owner. You don't have to be the biggest company or the best organization, but to work for somebody that has values and systems and standards, or at least wanting culture within a painting company, is rare. So if those are your standards, whoever's listening to this, finding people that you can nurture into a person that will value your opportunity that you're giving to them is a great first step. Now, to wrap my point up, once you have this person, I started off early and I found that person. His name was Colton. And, at the end of the day, this guy was somebody that I could leave at the house. I knew that he would do great with the customer, and it allowed me to break off and go do estimates and come back and paint with him. There was a point in time it was just me and him painting by ourselves. Okay. So once I realized that Colton needed another A player, when it came time for me to find someone to work alongside him, my standard was higher because I needed to make sure that the person that I bring in would work well with Colton. Okay. So there were people that were really great at painting, but I could tell that their personality wasn't the way that I was with Colton in terms of the balance of workload and the balance of customer interaction and all those things. So being a great recruiter is about not only just finding what's good for you in terms of convenience of maybe finding a great painter, but also identifying who you're putting into what I call the petri dish. What's going to mix in? How's it going to mesh? What's it going to create if you put another personality next to who your all-star is? So that's kind of what I've done, and I've repeated that over and over and over again, and just try to build really good teams that work together. And in my hiring process, again, I'm at the point now where I don't even look for people with skills. I look for people that have good attitudes, that can be willing to learn and grow and be a part of our team.
One thing that I think I want to back up on a little bit. I think you touched on a lot of really good points around creating an opportunity for an employee and attracting A players. But oftentimes when we're at the start of our journey, if you have a room full of painters and you ask, hey, who here provides the best quality in your entire neighborhood? Sure. 90% of the guys are going to put up their hands, right? Everyone thinks that they provide the best quality. Okay, so we get that out of the way. But when it comes to attracting an A player, you have to be an A player yourself, right? Because these like A players, these like really type A personalities, the people who want to do a really, really good job, they don't want to work for a slouch. They want to work for someone who's going to help them, who's going to challenge them, who's going to help them grow, give them opportunity, like you said. So for people who are at the start of their journey, how do you level yourself up and become that person who an A player wants to work for?
You just need to be 1% better every day. And you have to make sure that you're always one step ahead of the people that are working for you. And that's not out of ego. That's just your responsibility. You got to care enough to be one step ahead. You have to be a little bit better. You have to be something that is inspiring. Reality of the situation is, when you hire someone, they're expecting two things out of you: money and security. And if you want those individuals as employees who seek that's why they're employees. They're seeking security and they're seeking consistency in terms of income. That's your job. You need to make it clear to them, if you want people to buy into your vision, that their problems are important to you as a business owner. And for me, I can't solve anyone's problems unless I work on my own problems. If my finances aren't in line at home, I can't help someone else excel in their finances in terms of my employees, or I can't expect them to manage their money effectively or create incentives for them to get raises and things like that, because I haven't mastered money. So in other words, like, you can't expect someone to do something that you haven't mastered yourself. Another example would be if you have someone that's showing up late at work. Well, if you show up late at work and you haven't mastered time, you can't expect someone to follow you and be on time. It's actually hypocritical for you to tell someone to be on time when you're not on time yourself. So really, your employees and your team are a reflection of your habits ultimately. And what happens is someone else has better habits than you and they work for you. Chances are they're going to outgrow you and they're going to want to move on. And you could absolutely lose an A player. I've hired people in drip jobs, and in some cases premium painting, that have forced me to raise my standard, right? So here's an example. When I brought in a salesperson for drip jobs, if I brought him in and I didn't spend 3 weeks prior building out the CRM that he's going to be working out of and building out all these automations and all these functions to help him do his job to his highest capability, and he just walked into a system that wasn't fully developed, then ultimately I sold the dream, but I gave him, a trip to a motel. It wasn't a vacation. It wasn't, so in other words, I overpromised, underdelivered. So the goal here is, as a leader, you really need to look at everything from the perspective of your team. And what I want to do is I want to be an inspiration to my team. I want to find ways to make their business my business so they make my business their business. Ultimately, I want to get to know them. I want to know what their goals are. I want to know what their aspirations are. If you're not a goal-driven individual, if you don't have your own goals, you're not even going to ask your team what their goals are, because you're not even sure that you're going to hit your goals. So for them to tell you that's going to make you feel inferior. So ultimately, you avoid questions like that, right? So how does this start? You asked a good question. How does someone begin the process of this? The first thing is you got to look at it like this. You are an employee of your company, right? Mike, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. You should have a scorecard. You should have responsibilities and expectations for yourself, and your team in return have expectations of you.
You are an employee of your company. You need to be the hardest worker. You need to be the person that is exhausting all of your resources at the end of the day to get your company off the ground. You need to be making all the phone calls. You need to be doing all the work. You need to be showing your team what the standard is. In my first 2 years of running my painting business, Mike, I painted every day, ran and did estimates, came back, painted, ran out, did another estimate, checked on another job. My team knew that the speed of which I was working, if they didn't keep up with it, they knew that they weren't going to be around me much longer. And there's a part of that for a team member to see and almost emulate when it's their turn to be a manager, when it's their turn to be a project manager, and they respect you in a certain way. So I'll give you a couple points and then we can collaborate on something else. But here's the deal. Number one, write down your goals. I'm sure in Mike's coaching program, there's some talk about goals, right? Mike, are we talking about goals at all?
Step one.
Okay. We got to identify what the heck you're doing. My goal was to get to $1 million in sales. It's arbitrary. The number really doesn't matter. It's what I would become along the way. That's what I cared about. I could care less about the money. I wanted to know how I could get there, what I needed to do, how resourceful I would have to be to pull together the resources to create $1 million in revenue, generate those in paint jobs, and be able to sell those paint jobs, sell $1 million worth of business. In other words, I wanted to learn how to create $1 million worth of value out of thin air. But how would I get there? I had to become a certain person. I had to get organized. I had to learn the business. I had to learn how to sell. I had to reverse engineer my sales process. I had to find the right people. I had to empower my team. I had to motivate them. I wanted the best production. I wanted the best job environment. I wanted the best culture. So we have to identify what goals are you after. And then the second thing is you need to do some self-reflection. We got to identify, what do you need to change about yourself? What are some things that you know deep down that you need to adjust? Are you waking up late? Are you watching things on TV you shouldn't be watching? Are you wasting your time just dumbing down your mind when you have a business and there's families counting on you? What are you doing? If your employees were to spy on you during your free time, when you tell them you're going out and doing estimates and doing things, would they follow you, or would they look at you in a negative light and start looking for another job because they realize that you really don't have their best interest in mind? You know, I want my team to know Tanner's always working. He's always working for us. He's always trying to find us the next job. He's always making sure that every single day there's a job to be done. We've never went 1 week without work in 7 years. And that is a promise I made to my team. They'll never be without work. They know they're getting 40 hours every single week. They're pretty much all on salary. Every one of my painters, they've never gotten less than 40 hours. It's not mostly called salary. But here's the deal. That's number two. So we got number one, goal set. Number two, self-reflection. And number three, you have to have some sort of accountability system. I mean, ultimately, you can hide in a corner and you could not have any accountability and no one would know. When you're a business owner, when you set out to work for yourself, you don't have a boss anymore, okay? Your entire life, you've been told what to do, where to be. You went to school, people checked your attendance. They graded you. You got graded, okay? When you work for someone else, if you didn't show up to work, someone would call you. As a business owner, it's all on you. You have no accountability. So ultimately, why I'm so invested in communicating with Mike, because I believe in the power of accountability. There's proven systems in place. So get involved with an accountability partner. I'm sure some of you listening are part of Mike's program, but something like that is extremely beneficial. It's going to speed up your learning curve. So those are my big three. I forget the topic, but those are my big three.
For sure. It was how do you become the leader that you need to be? And I think you just gave a verbal ass whooping to anyone listening who's in that situation right now, who just can't kind of get out of their own way. So to clarify it, like number one, what goal are you after? Where do you want your business to be? Because if you go on a road trip without a map, you're not going to end up where you want to go. So you have to have that set up. Self-reflection. What are the skills and deficiencies in those skills that need to be improved in order to become that leader? And then accountability, having someone other than yourself to hold you accountable to do the hard thing, because business ownership and entrepreneurship is not easy. It is not the easy path in life. If you want the easy path, go work at, wherever, 40 hours a week, clock in, clock out, go home, and you have no more responsibilities.
Sure.
But running a business, you work your 40 hours, you go home, and responsibilities come right home with you.
That's right. It never stops.
So that is that part of like, how do you become that person? Now, the other really important thing that you mentioned when attracting A players is hiring for attitude instead of hiring for skill. Because a lot of painters that I've talked to, they say, I can't find good painters. All of the painters who come this way, who apply, are drunks, they're stoners, they don't show up late, they don't show up to interviews, they don't show up to the job site when they say they're going to. So because of that, I'm stuck on the tools. I can't find anybody else. I'm a victim of the painters that are around me and available. So how do you hire for skill, or for attitude rather? Let's break that down.
Yeah.
And then how do we get someone like that up to speed where they're painting competently?
Yeah. I mean, first you got to identify what you want and you have to be clear. I think you have to understand that, some of us are in relationships with a significant other. Um, there's no closer relationship outside of that than it is with your team, your employees. These people you are talking to sometimes more than your significant other,
Oh, much
right?
more. Yeah, much more.
And what's interesting is we'll go a month, 2 months of quote unquote courting, right? Or, talking to someone or getting to know someone to their core before we engage in a relationship. But in the same breath, when it comes to an employee or a potential employee, it's, hey, can you just meet me at this job site and we'll see what you can do? You know? So ultimately, what I like to do is create the perception that, you have to earn this position, and you don't have to be perfect, but ultimately you have to earn this. This isn't something that's just going to be handed to you. And there's going to be a couple steps along the way that are going to help me see if you're going to make it with us, right? So ultimately, the hiring process should foreshadow the expectations of what the role looks like in the company. Because ultimately, the hiring process is a training ground. It's like basic training, really. That's the way I look at it. When you get into battle with us, I need to know that you have the intangibles already. Those intangibles are the following: promptness, communication, drive, motivation, willingness to be coached. Because all of these things come up in battle, and we're already in battle. I'm at war every day in a good way, not in a bad way, just like a battlefield,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
we
don't
get it.
make it seem like I hate the business. I love the business, but we're in battle. We're fighting against mediocrity, right? And mediocrity wants to creep in every day. It wants to come in. Customers want to come at us. Things come up. But I need to know that my soldiers in the field can handle it. But if I let anyone into the building and I go into battle, I might think that one person that I have can help me fight the battle, but I didn't vet him well enough. Guess what? My base camp is compromised. Now the people that are fighting battles with me are now compromised, and now they have to not only fight their own battles, they have to fight the battles of someone else who should have been holding their own weight. It took me a long time to realize this. So ultimately, the hiring process is like a mini battle. All right. So how we do this is very simple. The first thing is that we create a call to action in the post. Here's the deal, especially in painting, attention to detail for a painter is probably one of the highest level skill qualifications there are in for that role. Would you agree? I mean, there's some industries where that's not a big deal. Like if you do grading for properties, like you don't really have to be that attention to detail. You're mostly focused on the macro. But with a painter, you have to do the macro, but the micro is what you get judged on. Your job is to finish. Your job is to make sure everything else looks really good.
Which
Okay.
always makes me laugh when the owners are following around doing touch-ups for their crews.
Agreed. Right. They missed the mark, right? You
Yeah.
should be doing that. So reality of the situation is that in that post, Mike, we got to have a call to action at the end of the post. Why? Because we want to see what the attention to detail was. Are they the type of person that can sit through and read that entire post and at the end see clear instructions that say, if you want to be considered for this position, please go, please go to this link and fill out the form. Okay. Now, here's the deal. That's going to wipe out 50% of the applicants because the other 50% are not even going to do it. They're just going to hit the apply button and think that they applied to our position. Perfect. Because the reality of the situation is the night before jobs, sometimes I'm writing a paragraph on what's to be expected the next day for a certain job, for a certain customer of what to be expected, or they're getting a work order that has instructions of what they need to do. Something as simple as make sure you cover the plants in the back. There's a plant that's very special to this customer. I want to make sure it gets covered. If you miss that detail, that could be a 1-star review. Right?
Absolutely. Or getting kicked off the job site.
You're out, right? Yeah, I mean, it's happened. All right. So 50% of my applicants don't make it through the form. Now, when they get to the form, we have some strategic questions we ask. And ultimately, I'm just looking to see if they can fill out my form in entirety or if they got tired along the way and the answers start to dwindle at the bottom of the form. Okay. How bad do you want this job? I can tell by your answers on my form. If at the end of the form if at the end of the form it says, is there anything else you would like to share, and you leave it blank, you're not getting hired, because ultimately you got bored and you didn't care about the opportunity enough to sit there and write out your thoughts. Okay. Again, that wipes out another 25%. So the other 25% that actually go through this process, right? So we started with 100 people, we get down to 50. Now we're at 25 people, using big numbers for my illustration here.
For sure.
25 are left. From that 25, we cherry pick based off of the answers in the form. That gives us 10. Those individuals get invited to a phone interview. Okay. During the time of the invite to the phone interview, I'm doing research. Google them. Simple as that. Google will give you everything you need to know. Won't go into too much detail, but use your judgment on how you approach social media, how you approach Google. Is it a representation of your company? If your customers did a social media check on all of your employees, would it fit the mold? Is that the vision you want for your company? So that's weaned out a few people. So down, let's say we're down to 7. We do 7 phone interviews. Things I'm looking for. Did you show up on time? Right? Were you there when I called you? Were you there? Did you just wake up at 1 o'clock? And are you groggy? Are you excited about the opportunity? Are you trying to win? Number 3.
You have them call you, or do you call them?
I call them.
Okay.
I call them.
So if they're driving or like distracted, then that's like,
it's a preset time. Yeah. If they're distracted, if they're driving, I've had people on job sites just walking around. You can hear the background noise. Like, where's the respect? Right? Yeah. This is a job. It's a new opportunity. Question I ask every single time on the phone interview: what wakes you up in the morning to go to work? What's your motivation? And if anything, if they say money, out, we know the motivation's money. What else? So that brings us down to 3. Now I have 3 really good in-person interviews. Once I get through those phone interviews, I'm down to 3. Those in-person interviews, you have a really good chance of getting this job. What I'm looking for: did you show up on time? Again, promptness. I want people that are early to life. There's people out there that are early. I need early risers. I want early people that, especially in this industry where we start our jobs at 8 o'clock. If you can't be on time at 8 o'clock, then you don't value, you may be in the wrong business. But ultimately, I don't even, in my business, I don't even check the timesheets. I know every one of my guys is there on time. It's beautiful. 7:45.
Trust is earned.
Trust is earned. So are you there on time? When I get there, I look at you in 2 ways. I look at you from the eyes of, can I work with this guy? Is he going to be someone that I feel like would take direction, or does he overtake me in conversation? I look at it from the position of my customer. If I were a customer, an old lady in a house, would this guy make me feel comfortable? It's not always about physical look. It's about their demeanor, their tone, how they approach conversation. Would I feel intimidated and want to avoid this person, or would I want to communicate with this person? How does he make me feel? Because if he makes me feel good, then he's going to make my customer feel good. Right? Just so you know, we haven't talked about anything that has to do with paint, Mike. I care less at this point, because that's not the role that I'm hiring for. So again, that starts with who you're hiring for. And then now we've narrowed down our individual. Maybe we have 2. Then we do a working interview. I'm going to put you in with my team. You get 5 days paid. Come on. I'll invest that 5 days. It's clear cut. You have 5 days with our team. We'll see how you do on the last day. We'll sit down. We'll talk about it, or I'll call you. I'm going to let you work with us. We'll see what you're about. We'll see if you like us, and we'll see if, we like you. It's a win-win if it works out. And in some cases, it gives you an opportunity to let us know with no hard feelings that it's not a good fit. So that's the offer that they get. And then from there, it usually only takes a day or 2 working with them to see who they are and what they're about, Mike. And, I spent 5 minutes just talking to you about that, but ultimately it's excruciatingly long. I don't hire when I need to. I hire when I want to, and I have the luxury to take my time in this process.
That was a really great overview. I hope everyone listening took notes. If not, go back and take notes. I took a bunch of notes because there was some really good tips and some really gold in there. So from what I'm hearing, Like promptness is always number one. We need people who are on time, and promptness doesn't just mean you're an on-time person. It means you care.
Right.
And if you care enough to be on time or early for something, then more or less, you're going to care enough to, to do a good job. So I really like that. When it comes to taking direction, the demeanor, their tone, like the question that I like to ask is, would I feel good about this person representing my company?
Sure.
If this was the only interaction that my customers had with my company, they only spoke to this painter, would I feel good about that? And if not, then like, I think people are too often hiring in a position of not scarcity, but urgency.
Right.
And if you're hiring with urgency, you're going to make a mistake.
I mean, it's the most valuable thing you can do. I avoid so many problems because I have problem solvers. I have people that have value systems that say, I value this company. I value the opportunity. I value Tanner, and I value my job. And if you can't hire and have awareness of a value system, like that's what the process does, is it makes it easy for me to identify value system. And ultimately, everyone values things differently, right? Some people have to go through a bad experience to appreciate a good one. My best employees are ones that have worked for other painting companies before, because they recognize what they have here and they say, I'm not letting this go because it's not going to come around again. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes the worst employees are the ones that haven't worked for a painting company before, and they don't see the value in what you do as a business owner. And I think for some of us, it's important to feel appreciated. I think a lot of business owners want that feeling. Not all of us are about the money, and I think those of us that are not about the money, we want appreciation, and we want people to appreciate what we're doing for them and how we're thinking about them at night and how we can improve their life and give them more opportunity and make sure they have work. And the time that we spend on the phone working up deals and trying to, sitting with our coach and trying to better this operation that blesses the families of others. I think that if we have people around us that don't value that, that gives us a tainted view of what being a leader is. And I think it's your job to make sure that you only bring in people that have a good value system. I'm not saying that they need to, praise you and praise your every move, but appreciation is shown in some ways simply by showing up on time and staying a little late when needed, because they know that the value of making sure customers are happy is ultimately what the goal for the company is. So selfless individuals, prompt individuals that may have had a poor experience, now they want a better one, and they value what you're doing as a business owner. Because I know if you're listening to this, you have a good value system of how you run your business. So I'm speaking to my people here who align with my values too.
100%. And people who are investing in themselves, whether it's just with their time listening to something like this, or with their money, buying software for their company or going through training programs, like those are the people who went into business not just because they wanted to make more money, but because they saw it could be done better. There was a better way to do things. Like you said, maybe working for a bad boss who would rip off customers or rip off their employees or pay late, or there's, water down their paint. There's so many different ways to cut corners, no pun intended. That if you want to do it the right way, yes, it starts with you. It starts with you setting a good example. But really where the battle is won or lost is, are you able to put together a team that wants to accomplish the same things as you, doing things better, being better, and ultimately like raising up the industry, because the industry is full of bad actors. There's a ton of crappy painting companies out there.
Agreed.
So how do we continue to like Nick Slavik says, raise all ships?
Yeah, I mean, for the painting business in a whole, I think not many people have the ability to impact the entire painting business, but what you can do is impact your business, and impacting. That's a very blanket statement, but ultimately, impact is such a powerful word. Start impacting the people that come to work for you. Appreciate them in such a way that you recognize they could have chosen anywhere else to work. They give you their most valuable resource that they have, their time. And as a business owner, we've been able to manipulate life in a way that we can win our time back, which is very hard to do. That's the big achievement of owning a business. However, not everyone has that luxury. So we have to remember where we came from, and we have to create a business that allows people to feel safe, to not feel as though their time is being held hostage or they have to fear for their job. We want to create a place that they can feel empowered. We want to create a place where they can grow. We want to surround them with people who are good people that they can build lifelong relationships with, people that they work alongside. We want to make sure that you're, as the business owner, there as a resource to ensure that if they need something, that they can count on you to deliver. You want to be an open line of communication. You want to be someone that they can call and say, hey, I'm going through something right now. Is there any way you can help me out? And ultimately, sometimes that's all people need is maybe a lifeline here and there. But guess what you get in return is you get loyalty. And I think the focus should be just don't worry about what's going on outside of your business. Look inside your house. Look inside your business. Are the people that are working for you, are those the people that are your ride or dies? Are they going to go to battle with you? Or do you have people around you that you're keeping around because it's comfortable, because they're fast at painting, but they're spoiling the bunch because of their toxic nature, their egotistical mindset?
They
Their
don't get
money.
along with your other painters. I've had a client who had a great painter. Like he was a really good, really fast painter. But when I was working with him, with the business owner, we had a big issue because we couldn't put that painter with anybody else
Right.
because he just didn't play well with others. So I was telling him for about 6 months to make the decision to get
Let 'em
rid of
go.
him. And it's hard to do because you don't want to lose that productivity. But like, what are you really losing in the grand scheme? Like,
Sure.
if you take a step back from your business and you look 5 years down the line, is this the person that's going to help you hit that 500K a year, hit that million a year, hit that 2 million a year? Or do you need to just replace and just do a little bit of rebuilding? Like, what season are you in with your business?
Sure. I look at it like this, what message does that send to the other team members? If you can't make a decision to let someone go when everyone around you is telling them how toxic they are and what they're taking away from their morale and their motivation. I mean, what message does that send? It just really just sends the message that you value money more than culture. And again, that creates a scarcity mindset. The employees start to hoard their money and their time, and it just creates an environment that can very quickly become toxic, in a culture. So I've been there, and it took me way too long one time to let someone go. But when I did, man, the relief.
Right? It's like a weight is lifted from your shoulders. It's a decision
Big
that you have to
big
make, but if
time.
you keep kicking it back, and I've had to have those decisions, even recently or those conversations recently in my business, where I've had to confront an employee about, their behavior, whether it's like making a plan to help them correct their behavior, or hey, it's just like it's clearly not working out because we've had all of these missteps, and clearly, it's not working out for both of us. So, but it's really hard to do, especially if they are making you money.
Very hard to do. And I think it comes down to, in the same way, I use this analogy sometimes. If you don't have any jobs lined up, or you don't have a system that helps you find work, right? If you don't have marketing going, you're going to take whatever comes your way out of survival, right? So if you don't do popcorn removal, but you don't have any work on the schedule and you don't have any leads for what you really should be doing, which is painting houses, and somebody says, hey, I need my popcorn removed, guess what you're going to do? You're going to remove that popcorn. And then what does that do? Well, that throws the team in a curveball, right? So now the team starts to scramble because they're not sure how to do this. You're going to run into things that you shouldn't be running into. And ultimately, what it's going to do is cause chaos. So in the same way, that's going to happen with your hiring. If you only hire out of desperation, if you don't study the game of hiring and have potential hires sitting in your inbox on a weekly, monthly basis, then ultimately you leave yourself susceptible to being at the mercy of toxic employees, people
Whoever
that
comes your way when you need them, when you're
right
hiring out of desperation.
hiring out of desperation. So that's what can happen very quickly.
Yeah, I always recommend looking at the hiring process through a marketing and sales lens, because ultimately that is what you're doing. You're marketing the lead that you're trying to get as an applicant, and the sale that you're trying to make as a great painter. And if you try to rush that, you're going to get a popcorn ceiling type of painter. um, I want
Man,
to go back and push back on one point you said a second ago about how one painter can't, one painting company can't necessarily impact the entire industry. And the point that I kind of thought about when you said that is that the entire painting industry for each customer is potentially their experience with you. So if that customer has never hired a painter
Agreed.
before and you're the first one that they've hired and they have a terrible
Right.
experience, you show up late, you smell like cigarettes, you just text them a simple number, or you don't have any like text message automations or reminders or anything. Like, they're going to think the entire industry is like that. But if you show
Right.
up, you're branded, you're on time, they get reminders, they get notifications, you go through like a great professional quote, you take them through the full process, you
Right.
answer all their questions, and then their painters are on time and everything like that. Like, that's going to be their experience in the entire industry. And they say, wow, painting is a wonderful experience. Everyone
Sure.
should get it. Plus, everyone should use this one company that I just used. So to that customer, you are the entire painting industry.
I
And
agree. I will.
one more thing on that. And then your ability to leverage that impact is by having your team create that experience for others, rather than just one-on-one you doing it, having your entire team do that.
Again, value system is something that I just focus on. And I think, first of all, like, you can have really skewed perception of your customers if you keep running into customers that don't value what you do and value how you do it. I think there's a huge educational component to sales that we have to do more in our industry than some other industries. We have to really showcase we're different. If you go to a restaurant and you don't have to ever go to that restaurant, but if you showed up to a restaurant, generally speaking, to stand at the host desk at the front, right? Why? Because it's the same process. Everyone's adopted the same idea. They're like, okay, it's probably a pretty good idea if people wait here so we can pick a table for them so we can alert the server. Then the server knows which customers are theirs, and then the server can take good care of that customer in a timely fashion. Now, the thing about the painting industry is, and most trades, is that they don't really have, like, we don't have a general, I guess I would say, a general standard of how to do business. Some people have the owner answering all the phone calls, and then when that person answers the phone, some of those owners say, hey, can you text me your information? Some of them stop what they're doing, put the phone on speaker, and type all the first name, last name, email, phone number, and address into their phone. Some write it down on pen and paper. And some, so some don't send a follow-up text saying thank you for reaching out, right? So ultimately, like, the experiences are so vastly different in this industry, which causes a lot of confusion for the customer. But what's great about that is it's very easy to stand out. And I think, again, Mike, you hit this pretty good. Ultimately, setting that standard can change the perception of what the painting industry can be. But ultimately, the hard part about that is some people don't get their house painted every 10 years. So the next time around is so far away where you won't really see the benefit of that. So ultimately, my suggestion is focus on what you can do with your team and your employees and your customer in that moment, and try to make it a focus to change the perception in that moment, not next time around, which could easily happen. But ultimately, if you just spend a little time with ultimately getting systems in place, drip jobs, different systems that help client communication, change the perception, build the trust, this can make a really big impact now. So I love all that. I think it's a great mission to be a part of. And if we all have it in the back of our heads that we want to change the perception of what this industry is, it'll all come around full circle, especially with our group, the things that we do in the painting contractor group, trying to make sure that people feel they can ask questions and it's not this, these mean guys that just, berate everyone. Right. So there's some really professional people in this industry that, want to do great work for great people.
Yep, absolutely. I feel like we are still just at the very early stages of this industry movement or revolution.
Yeah, sure. You can feel it though. It's in the air.
It is in the air, and there's a lot of great people and great organizations and great groups and companies working together towards this. But at the end of the day, it starts on the front line. It starts and ends on the front line, right? What is the experience that each customer is having, and was it good? So, and that starts with you, like the listener. So
Right.
if we go full circle to expand your impact, you can't just be yourself. You can't just run a painting business, paint one job at a time, produce for 40 hours a week with a helper. Not only are you going to be limited financially, but you'll also be limited with the impact you make in your community.
Right.
So how should the guys and girls, we have great women in painting, how should the guys and girls take that step, if they're currently stuck in that rat race, to start bringing on their first rock star?
Man, it's, first of all, you got to be bold and you have to be willing to take a risk. I tell people this too. The biggest risk you ever made was when you started your business. There will be no other risk greater for your professional career than when you decided to go into business. So the problem is that so many people are just happy they got there, happy that they're working for themselves. They're seeing money that they haven't seen before, that they usually had to wait for on Friday. And they're kind of just starstruck. They're just like, man, I don't want to let this go. And I tell those people, you're on your way to letting it go because you're not being active in growing it, and you're either growing or dying in business. So this isn't really a, hey, you should probably try to find that A player. It's, if you don't, you will find yourself back at a 9 to 5 if that's not already what you're experiencing in your own business, and making less than you would without all the headaches, or less than you would somewhere else, but you wouldn't have all the headaches, right? So you're actually, you're losing the game. So for me, to get that A player, first of all, you got to identify what you want, what you're looking for, what the ideal partner would be. You have to put yourself out there. You have to do the work. You got to go through the process. You got to actually write the ad. You got to field the applicants. You want people that come into your business with momentum. You don't want to reach out to people that applied 30 days ago. You want people that are fresh, that are excited, that just applied. They're maybe having a bad day at their job now and they want a better opportunity. And the second thing is your business, is your grass really greener over there? I mean, really? Have you built a culture? And you can be the culture. You don't have to have a fancy office. You don't have to have a shop. You don't have to have nice vehicles.
You don't even have to have other employees to have a culture.
They could be the only employee. You just need to be a good person. You need to care about the people that come in to work for you. You need to value their time, value their willingness to want to help you build your dream. How crazy is that, man? Not everyone gets that opportunity. So again, it starts with you as a person, but it's implementing the system, believing that the outcome will be favorable, not quitting if the outcome isn't favorable. It's like dating, right? You got to make sure that you find the right fit. You got to set expectations, but is the grass greener? Is the opportunity better? Did you create a business? Did you get the coaching? Did you set up the marketing? Did you believe in the dream? Are you good at conveying the dream? Because if you can't get someone to believe in what you're building, then they won't believe in what you're building. So you need to rehearse your dream. Rehearse what you're going to say to these people to get them to want to leave what they're doing to start with you. What are you doing? I'll give you one to use. I want to build the best painting company in this city. I want to be so involved in the community. I want to have trucks wrapped with my logo on it. I want to be making more money than I've ever made before. I want to impact so many lives. I want to paint this many houses. I want to do this. I want to give to charity. I want to start thinking about what it is you want to achieve, because when times get tough, you're going to really want to draw on those. And if you don't have anything to draw from, if your goal bank is empty, then you're going to give up. And I've seen it. So make sure you're always striving for something. And once you exhaust what you're striving for, you want to start thinking about things that pull you to strive for others. I have 3 individuals in my business that came to me and said they wanted to buy a house. Okay. 3 individuals now have a house. And to me, if I were to be measured as a business owner, as a leader in life, and the only metric of success was how many people I brought into my business that had a goal that was achieved, that is what I want to be remembered as. The person that helped them get something that they couldn't have gotten had I not done things the right way. If I didn't pay them through a payroll service, if I didn't invest the time to learn how that worked, if I didn't care enough to get them pay stubs, if I didn't make sure they had the right systems in place financially because I was looking out for their best interest, not mine, because I want to save on taxes, then they wouldn't have been able to get that, right? Because I would only be caring about me. So these are just some things that I think about. I value people to the highest degree. And unless you adopt a mindset like that, you really won't go as far as you could.
And that reminds me of a quote by the late great Zig Ziglar. You can have whatever you want in this world as long as you help enough people get what they want.
I can hear that.
Yeah. You can when you that 100% embodies Zig's phrase there, and I think that all starts with
It's that right
number
there.
one. Oh, there you go. Love
That's it.
it.
Come on, bro.
When I was getting my business started back in the day, I would listen to Zig for hours every day.
Dude, this is such a good book. Top Performance by Zig Ziglar. Dude, I mean, the pages are just gems, bro.
Yeah.
Leadership gems.
So number one, just to put a nice bow on this conversation, figure out who you want and what you're looking for. Be specific on it when you're trying to fill this role. Like write out exactly who you want, and then become the person who can lead that type of person, right? Be like strict with yourself about who you let in, have a really thorough interview process, and ultimately set the expectations, bring people on, and don't take second-rate painters. Don't accept them. Just better to have no one than to have a second-rate painter.
100%.
Yeah. And quick plug, Tanner, how can you help painters right now?
Listen, this isn't a plug. This is a call. This is a call to action to anyone that owns a painting business and needs good software. I built Drip Jobs with my heart. And the first reason I did it was to impact like everything I do. Yes, there's a financial commitment to that. However you view that as your value system. For me, I look at it as this. The software that we have, Drip Jobs, is the best thing you'll use for your painting business because it was built by someone that does what you do. I'm very competitive in a good way. I want the best solution for you. We have a great community at this time. We have 900 companies using Drip Jobs. This was just an idea, and it turned into something that's really taking off. And I would love your support. I'd love for you to give us an opportunity to do a demo with you just to show you what it can do. And my promise to you, the same way I promise to all my customers, is the value that you give me will be exceeded in the value that I give you. And if that didn't make sense, it's the other way around. I plan to give you more value than you give me. And if you make that a focus in your business, if that's one of your standards, and that's just not only the standard that I have with who I sell to, but to my employees that work for me, I want to outdo you in value. I want you to know that whatever you give me, you're going to get back. My goal would be tenfold. So with Drip Jobs, that's our mission. That's our focus, is to outdo the value exchange and to really give you your time back. There's a lot of areas of your business that you need help in. Organization is one of them. And what we can do with Drip Jobs is give you a software that knocks out that administrative role. People come to me all the time and they say, well, I'm not big enough for a software like that. And I say to them, there's no better user of Drip Jobs than someone who's doing everything by themselves. You literally have an office admin in your pocket, organizing customers, communicating with customers, sending out follow-ups, texting customers. I mean, it's amazing. So what we've built is something really special. I truly believe it'll impact your life. We're also partners with Painter Growth. So if you're a fan of this podcast and you haven't actually spoke to Mike, I would say get with him first. I don't usually advertise this, but you'll get a special, really, really long free trial if you come from Mike.
And Drip Jobs is the real deal. I've checked out pretty much every other CRM on the market. And calling it a CRM is such a disservice. It does so much more than that.
Marketing.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I've never seen a more comprehensive and perfect tool for painting contractors. And just by the value, I think that Tanner laid out today, you can apply that to the value that you'll be getting through his software.
100%.
But Tanner, thank you so much for being here, man. This is just episode one of many of you being on here.
Yeah,
we got lots to explore. So thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, man. This is great.
Okay. See you, man.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.